Welcome to Football Game Plan's College Football Kickoff. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, all of those good things to keep the conversation going. And today we're going to talk week 3 in college football, but we're also going to take a look initially at some teams that really need to check hard and deep onto how to get better moving into next week. I believe a good place to start is with the Florida State Seminoles. They came out flat after a long rain delay against Georgia Tech. Now, when they started the game, they had some success up front. Defensively, they were getting after the freshman quarterback for Georgia Tech, even forcing some turnovers. But after that long rain delay, the Seminoles came out flat. They allowed Georgia Tech to hang around. They got sloppy on offense, and ultimately they lost the game. Now they have to sit on that loss for a whole week before they go out and face the Miami Hurricanes next weekend. So you hope that a new sense of urgency will hit the Seminoles when they take the field against the Hurricanes. So that's why this weekend they have to find that gut check inside to make sure they come out with a whole new sense of urgency against the Canes. Next, we head out to Kansas, where the Jayhawks took another loss to Coastal Carolina. That's back-to-back years they've lost to the Chanticleers at home. That just can't happen if you're a Big 12 program and looking to get back to prominence within the university as far as the football team is concerned. Basketball is thriving. Football is a sleeping giant out there at Kansas, but you can't awaken that giant if you're losing to Coastal Carolina. And to be quite honest, it looked like Coastal Carolina just was flat out the more talented team. So that's something that Les Miles will have to look deep within inside himself to find out if he can get it out this team. And those players have to look deep within inside themselves and say, hey, we're Kansas, we're Big 12, we have to do better. Let's see if they can do better the next time they get out there on the field. Lastly, we head down to the Sun Belt Conference, where Texas State should be 2-0 on the season. So for them, the gut check has to be learning how to finish ball games. They had a nice chance to win against SMU. They lost that one late. They had a great chance to knock off UTSA in overtime, but lost that late. Here's the thing. Coaches preach about finishing all the time in winter workouts, spring practice, summer workouts, and summer practice leading up to the first fall game. So you have to learn how to finish. It's not like they didn't hear the message all throughout the time they've been in that program. Plus, you look at what happened. You can't allow mental mistakes to become physical ones. You look at that UTSA game, mental mistakes became a physical one in overtime. Penalties cost them an opportunity to knock off the Roadrunners. So the next time they take the field this weekend against UL Monroe, they have to be able to learn how to finish. If they can finish, this team has a bright future ahead, because they were young starting the season. Not much was expected, but they were able to stay competitive in both games. Both should have been victories, but again, young team learning how to work and learning how to finish should be the goal moving forward. It's never too early to take a look at some of the Heisman Trophy candidates as we head into week 3. And we're going to start in Miami with quarterback D'Eriq King. I thought he had a fantastic debut against UAB the other weekend. You talk about a guy that can do it on the ground and through the air. I thought his leadership and the efficiency he showed in the passing game is what impressed me the most. The same for Mikael Cunningham out of Louisville. I think this is the quarterback that no one is talking about. He was explosive last week versus Western Kentucky, throwing 3 touchdown passes. His deep ball accuracy is some of the best in the country. But you could also say the same thing about Spencer Rattler, who took over as a starting quarterback for Oklahoma. You talk about a guy that was able to connect on most of his deep opportunities last weekend. This was the guy. And again, playing in that Oklahoma system, it wouldn't surprise me to see him heading to New York by the time it's all said and done. And Sam Ehlinger had a fantastic weekend as well against UTEP, throwing 4 touchdown passes in that blowout victory against the Miners. Ehlinger came into the season with it on his mind, talking about, hey, we want to be a team that people will take seriously. And judging by his week 1 output or his week 2 output, it's safe to say he was able to accomplish that goal. But right now, number 1 on my list is still Trevor Lawrence. He's the Peyton Manning of this Heisman race, a guy that has been around for 3 years, and he looks the part, he plays the part, he's putting up numbers. He had a fantastic week last week in their opener against Wake Forest. So I think as long as he's able to stay the course we'll see him in New York. Now, if he's going to get usurped by any of these other candidates, it'll be because they played fantastic football themselves down the stretch of the season. There are a few teams that stood out last weekend with their performances that have earned them the right to be in the top 25, and we're going to focus on those 3 teams and how well they've played so far as we take a look at our power poll. The Army Black Knights are off to a great start to their season. They're undefeated. They're dominating in their performances, and although their game against BYU was postponed, that was supposed to be this weekend, it's safe to say no matter where they play or when they play, Army will be favored in those ball games because that triple option is deadly, and defensively they're doing a great job of getting off the field. I also like what I've seen so far from Arkansas State, Sun Belt Conference member. This is a team that has the ability to play above the rim. Jonathan Adams Jr. is a tremendous wide receiver, garnering some Senior Bowl watch list type praise. And when you look at what they do on defense, they are able to clog the line of scrimmage, shut down your run game, and get off the field. And how about the Louisiana Raging Cajuns? You look at a guy in Levi Lewis, who's one of the more efficient passers in college football. He's a true point guard at the position. I'm going to say that a lot about his game because I really believe he's one of the top field generals in college football and also projecting forward to the NFL draft. But when you look at their defense and that performance they put out there against Iowa State, to me, if they're able to play like that moving forward, this team could be special. And speaking of those Cajuns, as we preview some games for this weekend, they play the Georgia State Panthers, and this is going to be a fantastic matchup in the Sun Belt Conference. I want to see how Levi Lewis is able to handle those expectations of the offense and what they were able to do out there against Iowa State. He was able to hit LeBlanc deep down the field. He was able to work the passing game at the short and intermediate levels. The offensive line was able to hold up on the back end of the game. And so it's going to be important to see how they manage expectations, because when you look at the Georgia State defense, linebacker Zach Dixon can fly. He's a sideline-to-sideline guy. They do have some athleticism at the back 7 level, but can they stop the run? That was an area where they struggled last year in the Sun Belt Conference, and I do think the Cajuns will utilize that aspect of their game. They're running the football with Trey Regis and company to get the victory against the Panthers. Staying in the Sun Belt Conference as Coastal Carolina plays host to Campbell, and the Campbells did a great job against another Sun Belt foe last weekend in that Georgia Southern game. I thought they actually should have won that ball game. That game came down to the last final second. So a great job by head coach Mike Minter and his program getting those guys ready to play and compete at a high level. I'm a big fan of their quarterback, Malik Williams. He's a guy that's been a starter since his freshman season. They're going to need an encore performance from him in that offense, because when you look at Coastal Carolina, fresh off of that upset against Kansas and what they can do as far as their offense is concerned, they're going to put a lot of pressure on you to score or match that tempo and pace that they play with. They have a tremendous tailback in CJ Marable, so keep an eye on him in his ballgame as one of the premier pro prospects in this matchup. So he'll be one of the players that Campbell will focus on, but I think it's the Chanticleer's defense that'll be the story in this one. I like Coastal Carolina. Intriguing matchup in Denton, Texas, as SMU travels to take on North Texas, and this should be a fun game because you're going to have 2 explosive offenses. So if you're a betting guy, take the over in this ball game because there will be a lot of points scored. Shane Buechele and that offense coming to Denton, Texas, trying to take advantage of a North Texas defense that is not as stout as far as stopping and run is concerned. They're a little bit more athletic, but that's the thing. They can match up against the passing game, I believe, of SMU. Plus, the offense of North Texas is nothing to sneeze at either. They can put the points up on the board as well. They put up 50-plus points against Houston Baptist in their opening game. So expect a lot of points. Who has the best defense will end up getting the win. I think we'll see an upset here. I like North Texas. Keep an eye out for their linebacker, KD Davis. I think he's going to be involved in a ton of plays. I like to call this one my mid-major game of the week, and that's between Appalachian State and Marshall. 2 former SoCon and FCS foes hit the field Saturday in Huntington, West Virginia. I think this is going to be a point of attack battle. Who can win up front will determine who wins this game. When you look at Demetrius Taylor, the outstanding defensive lineman for App State, he's a defensive player that always has the football in his hands, and that's the type of defensive player I want on my team. So their defense, especially within their front 7, they do a great job of playing assignment sound football, and they're also very athletic. When you look at Marshall's offense, Grant Wells, the outstanding freshman quarterback, had one heck of a debut against Eastern Kentucky. He had a week to prepare for this game, or 2 weeks to prepare for this game. So you wonder, what can he do for an encore? Their passing game was working touchdown to check down against the Colonels. I look at their offensive line. They do a great job of running the football, so they dominate up front. And running back Brendan Knox is one of those backs that can consistently gain yards moving downfield. I think because of the extra week of prep they had for App State, I like them in this ball game. So take Marshall to knock off App State. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Football Game Plan's College Football Kickoff. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brendan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security, Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. StewardshipCredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Welcome back to Football Game Plan's College Football Kickoff. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we'll continue to roll along with these game previews, and we'll start in Atlanta, where UCF travels to Georgia Tech. UCF is always playing with a chip on their shoulders, always trying to prove on a national scale that they belong. But I like their defense in this matchup against Georgia Tech. Last week against Florida State, we saw the sensational freshman quarterback Jeff Sims lead his team to victory, but we also saw some freshman mistakes. And I think because he's so young and so raw as a player, I think UCF's defense will be able to take advantage. I'm taking the Knights. Next up, we have Tulsa taking on Oklahoma State. And the reason why I like this ball game is because you're going to see two talented tailbacks out there on the field. Shamari Brooks for Tulsa is one that does a great job both pre and post line of scrimmage from a vision standpoint, and is also very elusive. So he gives the Golden Hurricane a chance to be successful. But on the other side, Chuba Hubbard is one of the best running backs overall in the country, a Heisman Trophy candidate, and is a guy that can go the distance on any given play. I think when you look at him, Tylan Wallace and Spencer Sanders at quarterback for Oklahoma State, they just have too much firepower. So I like the Cowboys to knock off Tulsa. Next up, South Florida travels to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. And we look at Antonio Greer, the linebacker for South Florida, who led the team in tackles in their last game against the Citadel. He's going to have to be that active again against that Notre Dame rushing attack. What I liked about South Florida's defense was that you saw a team that played assignment sound. They were aligned properly. That's hard to do for a team that's playing against a triple option opponent like they did against the Citadel. So kudos to those guys managing that storm called the triple option, but they're going to deal with a different animal in that Notre Dame offensive front and that talented tailback Kyron Williams, who went off against Duke last weekend. I think Notre Dame, because of what they can do at the point of attack, will knock off South Florida. Over in the ACC, we have Boston College taking on Duke, and Boston College will make their 2020 season debut as they take on the Blue Devils and their new head coach, Jeff Hafley, who will take over a football team with no A.J. Dillon, no Anthony Brown, who's now the quarterback out there at Oregon. So we don't know what type of Boston College we will see, but I do know that mentality is still the same. Point of attack play will be evident. They're going to have to be able to get pressure on Chase Bryce, who showed last week against Notre Dame that he has the moxie to lead that team to victory. He was able to make that game very competitive. I think the more games he plays for Duke, he's going to get even better, and I like their offense. So I think because of the experience they played last week against a tough opponent, I'm taking Duke in this ball game to knock off Boston College. Another ACC matchup to keep an eye on this weekend is between Syracuse and Pitt, and you have to give Syracuse credit for what they were able to do last weekend against North Carolina. This was a team that really pushed the Tar Heels to the brink until halftime, and then after that, things started to fall apart. But you like how they came out, competed hard, and fought all throughout that game. They face a very tough defense in the Pitt Panthers. Paris Ford is one of the best players in the country, an NFL prospect, already has an interception, and he really made light work of Austin Peay in their last game. So I think Pitt will take care of business. I think because of their defense and what they can do offensively with Pickett at quarterback, this is just too good of a team on both sides of the ball for Syracuse. And finally, our game of the week preview is between Miami and Louisville, and we already spoke about the quarterbacks and De'Ara King for Miami and Mikael Cunningham for Louisville, but there are some other players that will have a significant impact in this ball game. You start on defense with Miami, and you look at Quincy Roche, the Temple transfer, already made his presence felt up front, and he's a guy that you really have to focus on. It wouldn't surprise me to see Louisville try to designate two guys on him, keep him busy at the line of scrimmage, because if he gets back there in the pocket, it throws off everything for their passing game. And on Louisville's side, Tutu Atwell will be on the receiving end of a lot of those deep rainbows that are thrown by Mikael Cunningham. And I think that aspect of their game, being able to hit the deep ball with consistency and effectiveness, will be what knocks off Miami. So I like Louisville in this one. Point spread in this game, I believe, is about 2.5 points. Vegas believes this is going to be a close game. I think it'll be a close game as well. I'm taking the Cardinals to knock off Miami. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's College Football Kickoff. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.